Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and it is time for Friday Reads. But I'm boiling alive, so this isn't even going to be a hot minute. I am modeling and removing this Grinch jacket. It is an oddity. It has long sleeves and snaps. It's made out of some kind of scrubs-like material. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but thus are the mysteries of the thrift store. Okay, here comes the magic. Ah, sweet relief. I am living in the actual real winter wonderland because it is in the mid 70s. It's going to be like 80 on Christmas Eve. And then there's a plummeting, horrific cold snap, and it's going to be like in the mid 60s on Christmas Day. We have butterflies, we have monarch caterpillars, we have hummingbirds in action. So I think that they all think that they've made it. They think that their trip to Mexico for the winter just flew by really fast. They must have been listening to good audiobooks or something because they're all here in my backyard. So welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you have been here. And I am going to review some books that I've been reading in the past week. When last we spoke, I was beginning my reread of Small Things Like These by Keegan. This might become an annual or semi-annual Christmas time reread because it is just such an exquisite little novella. And this is the story of Bill Furlong, an Irish man who delivers coal in a small town in the 1980s in Ireland. I think I already said he was Irish, didn't I? He has a wife and 5 daughters. He's Catholic, and on his rounds in the days before Christmas, he makes a startling and disturbing discovery at the local convent/town laundry. And if you know anything about the history of the Magdalen laundries, you can kind of imagine what he may have discovered. But I shall not give it all away. So Bill has a moral dilemma. But even before he makes this discovery, he is kind of in the running for something like this to happen because he has been reflecting on his life. He is happy and proud of his family, but he is not satisfied. We learn about his backstory and how he was born to a mother who had an unexpected teenage pregnancy, and how instead of being cast out, well, she was cast out from her family, but she was taken care of by her employer and lived for many years as a housekeeper with Mrs. Wilson. She's a wealthy woman in town, and she was kind and cared for Bill's mother and himself and her other longtime employee, Ned. And so he reflects on the example of Mrs. Wilson's life and how it benefited him. And he's looking around at the attitudes in the town and how they close ranks against those who were less fortunate. And it's disturbing him. This kind of crisis is not something that is shared by his wife, whose attitude is, you can't spend a lot of time dwelling on disturbing or unfortunate things. You need to just focus on your family and not worry about these other problems because we can't fix them. But if you've read any Clara Keegan, you know that her sentences are perfect. She doesn't have extra. You just can't figure out how she does it. And when in this reread, I was thinking mostly about Bill and Eileen and this marriage and how it has seemed pretty solid, but there's a crack, there's a fissure, and it's Bill's kind of gradual awakening to what's going on around him and his personal integrity, his responsibility to do something. And there's a point where he's had his rather unsettling discovery, and he comes home, he's late for church, he's rushing to get ready, but he's the beginning of a seismic shift. And so he's getting ready, and I love this this sentence. I think this sentence is just, I didn't even notice this the first time I read the book, but it just crystallizes so many things. And it says, With a fresh type of reluctance, he then changed into his Sunday clothes and walked with Eileen and the girls to the chapel, feeling the pavement steep and very slippery in places. And yes, indeed, Bill is walking on some slippery steps. And will he lose his footing? And what would that mean? So a beautiful, beautiful little book. Not your happy holiday story, really, but it is Christmassy, and it is excellent. All right, talking about things that take place at Christmas and are not happy, but they're excellent. It was time for my other semi-annual reread. I read this every year or two, The Catcher in the Rye, the novel I have read more times than any other novel, my favorite book. Now, it may not seem like it fits in particularly if you know my overall taste and style. It might seem like an outlier, but I don't care to explain that because I just don't care. I love Catcher in the Rye. I love Holden Caulfield. I love him for all of his, I don't care if he's out of date, out of touch, elitist, snooty, whiny, complainy, misogynistic, whatever it is, I still love him. This book has meant different things to me in different readings. And I first read it when I was 14, and I'm still reading it now. And it's so interesting that actually in this book, the experience of rereading a book is actually addressed, but he's not talking about a book. He's talking about a museum. And it's a part in the book where he is, okay, wait, I gotta back it up. In case, I know some people maybe have actually never read this book, so let me give a brief synopsis. Holden Caulfield is a 16-year-old boy. It's the very late 1940s. He is from a wealthy family. They live in a really, really nice apartment. I think it's on Park Avenue. And he is one of 4 children. The oldest brother has served in World War II and now is a screenwriter in Hollywood. Holden's the next one. He's 16. This is a huge spread of age in this family. Then there was a brother named Allie who passed away from leukemia. And then the youngest one, Phoebe, I think she's 10. And Holden is about to be kicked out of his prep school, and he has been kicked out of a few prep schools, and it's right before the Christmas break, and he decides to kind of jump the bad news and leave early, go back into New York City, and just kind of lurk around and hang out in the city for a couple of days before he has to go home and the boom gets lowered on him once again. So we have an opening part where he is still at school, which has some of just my favorite scenes and hilarious conversations. Holden is extremely funny, but he's also deeply sad and troubled. And this is a book about grief. It is about grief and trauma. Holden is dealing with grief that he has not worked through with the loss of his brother that he loved dearly. He's also experienced trauma. He has witnessed a suicide at one of the schools he attends. He alludes to other incidents that he doesn't explain. He makes a couple of cryptic references to creepy or what he calls pervy experiences, but he doesn't really tell us what happened. There's one incident in the book that is quite creepy, and he's also struggling with just feelings of discontent about the adult world. He sees so many people that he thinks are phony and fake, and that the world of adults and what men's roles are, he doesn't really want to be that kind of man. He also is dealing with his sexuality. He thinks about girls and sex all the time, but he's apprehensive about it. He claims that he's had many opportunities to lose his virginity, but something always interrupts, or he chickens out, and he's just unsure. Some readers have read into this that he might have questions about his sexuality. I'm not really sure if that is in there or not. It's not like an obvious motif, but he certainly does seem, he is struggling with what to do with it. He might just be not ready. I don't really know. Um, and the fact that he grows up in this atmosphere where the boys are always separated from the girls really doesn't help. You know, it's like they're another species of people, and he doesn't really know how to interact with the girls that he goes out with or meets. I kind of lost my thread of the thing I was going to talk about before, which is there's a scene in the book where he's talking about the Museum of Natural History and how he had gone to it many times as a kid on these field trips, and now his sister is going, and how every time you go, the museum's the same, but you are different. And that's how I feel rereading this book at all these points in my life, starting from when I was actually younger than Holden, and then now as somebody who would be, you know, even older than his parents probably. So I'm different every time I read it, and so different things come to the forefront or recede in the back. And really that happens with any book that you reread a lot of times. I feel that in Jane Austen or Jane Eyre. The passage that I'm talking about is, he's talking about all the things that are in the museum that are the same, and then he says, the only thing that would be different would be you. Not that you'd be so much older or anything. It wouldn't be that exactly. You'd just be different, that's all. You'd have an overcoat on this time, or that kid that was your partner in line the last time had got scarlet fever, and you'd have a new partner. Or you'd have a substitute taking the class instead of Miss Egeltinger. Or you had heard your mother and father having a terrific fight in the bathroom. Or you just passed by one of those puddles in the street with gasoline rainbows in them. I mean, you'd be different in some way. I can't explain what I mean. And even if I could, I'm not sure I'd feel like it. And that is definitely what I get every time I come back to this book. And just so many things that I like to think about. And it makes me laugh out loud every single time. In the midst of watching Holden have this just unfolding breakdown, he is hilarious. I don't know how he does it. Well, I know he's not real, but I don't know, every time it just devastates me and makes me laugh out loud, even though I've read it a million times. The funny parts are still funny. So if you have never read it, I wish that you would give it a shot. I understand the people who don't like it. It is a cilantro book, but I, for one, am Team Holden now and forever. I love it so much. I even had parakeets when I was a kid named Phoebe and Weatherfield. Oh yeah, I had one named Zoe too. Yeah, they were all Salinger names. The next thing that I read was a book for the band book club at the public library, and it was also a reread. This was a very reready week, and it was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Now, my memory of it, and so it kind of doubled as Remember December under all the categories, because I couldn't remember it. I don't know how I would feel about it, because I had an impression in the past of not liking it. And it was a different format because I was reading it with an adult discussion group and not in high school. So as I was reading it, the impression started to come back to me that I went through a Steinbeck phase, and I did read this, but I also read other Steinbeck books, and I liked all of them very much more than this one. What did I read? Travels with Charlie, East of Eden, and I think Winter of Our Discontent. I have never read The Grapes of Wrath, and I would like to read Cannery Row, I think. But this one is my least favorite, and I did not like this book. I just don't feel like it's his best work. It is, and I understand why it is used in schools, because everything is laid out. It's very easy for the taking. The foreshadowing is like a sledgehammer, and the characters are all kind of stock characters. The plot and the themes, you couldn't miss them unless you just tried really hard. So it didn't bring anything to me. It's a sad story. It's a tragic story. Let me know if you love Of Mice and Men. please tell me why, so I can try to access something in there that I couldn't find. The group had variety of opinions. I think people liked it more than I did. Some people loved it. Other people, everybody thought it was very dark, and we all laughed about why did we pick this to read during Christmas week. Well, we picked it because it was short, and we thought we'll be busy, so we'll do a short one. And then we picked this really depressing story. It's a story about two men named Lenny and George who travel together. They're migrant workers in the 1930s they're in California in this story. And they have left one place of work and gone to another. George is kind of a little guy, and Lenny's this big, huge, kind of usually gentle giant. He's really good at the physical work, but he's cognitively challenged. He's developmentally impaired. We don't know specifically why or what this diagnosis would be, but he has difficulty processing things. He can't remember. He has to things have to be repeated to him many times for him to hold it and grasp it in his mind, and he doesn't know his own strength. George kind of keeps an eye and tries to take care of Lenny, and now they have a new job, and George is trying to make this work. And they have this overarching dream of saving up money and starting their own farm and on their own land, and all the things that go wrong that impede this dream. One thing that I really seriously disliked in this book is the role of women. The fact that the main character that is a woman doesn't even have a name. She's just Curly's wife, and that's one issue. I don't know. There's a bunch of issues. I didn't really particularly enjoy it, but I am glad that I participated. That's it. All right. So currently reading, it's my last Remember December book is The Stone Diaries by Carol Shields. I've had this copy for a long time. I think this is when it came out in paperback in the 1993-ish, I'm going to say. This book was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and I think this was the first book that I read by Carol Shields, and then I read a couple other ones, and this one, my only thing I could remember was this was basically forgotten. This is what I chose for basically forgotten. I just remember that I liked it, and that's why I kept it. So, and then over the past year or two, I've been hearing people talk about this and rereading it, and then the Carol Shields Prize came into existence, and so I kept thinking, oh, I should read that again. So finally I am, and I'm about halfway through. I'm really enjoying it. It's the story of Daisy Goodwill, who is born on the kitchen floor to a mother who did not know she was pregnant and who dies in childbirth. And that's not a giveaway. That's in the first couple pages. And the neighbor next door is a woman whose sons have already moved out, and she starts to care for Daisy. And because her young father doesn't quite have it together to do this, and he's shocked, and he didn't even know a baby was coming, and then all of a sudden there's a baby, and his wife has passed away. So the book is written like a memoir that Daisy is writing of her life, but it's fiction. It's really interesting though, because there's photographs in the center that apparently Carol Shields put in old photographs from her actual family to stand in as photographs of these people in Daisy's life. So there's pictures of her friends and relatives, and so it's in sections. So there's like birth, childhood, and I've gotten up to the part where she's in her 30s and she's on a trip to Canada. She's from Canada, but she's been living in the US, and now she's going back to Canada. So I am enjoying it. I'll talk more about it when I get to the end or further along, but I'm glad that I am rereading The Stone Diaries. It begins in an exciting manner with the unexpected arrival of that child. And finally, if you've been around for a while, you have heard me mention this book and say, I want to read it, I'm going to read it. It was waved around during March of the Mammoth. It was waved around for Victober. It's frequently waved around yet never read, and I've started it, and it is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. Because why not start a massive book here in the last week of the year? And obviously this one's going to carry over. I don't plan to finish this following, week or so. But I'm up to chapter 4, so I can't really say much about it yet, except that I see that it is about a never-ending court case that has dragged on for apparently decades and is just mired in red tape. Then there's a young woman who apparently was born to an unmarried mother and is now being sent to live somewhere else to be a governess. I don't know. That's as far as I've gotten. The characters are being introduced, and I'm sure there will be 900 of them, and then I will have to try to keep track of everybody. But I'm ready to enjoy it. So I haven't gotten far enough to even have any thoughts. I did love the beginning with the description of the fog all over London, and then how inside the courthouse, that's the foggiest place of all, where the fog never lifts and everyone's just mired in this excruciatingly slow process. I thought that seems kind of timely. All right, so that is it. What have you been reading this week? I hope you have read something good. Let me know in the comments, or about any of these books that I have read. I'm not sure what the schedule is going to be like this upcoming week with holiday goings on, but so my video or something might come out on a different day, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. If this video is not terribly long, I will put the long lost aquarium visit footage down at the end in case you're interested, and if it seems kind of long, I'm just going to sit on it till I have some kind of short week. But anyway, if you are celebrating Christmas this weekend, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And otherwise, I hope you just have a very peaceful and relaxing weekend with a good book. Let me know what's going on. Oh, I meant to say this at the beginning, but if you're still here, Deborah Johnson, I'm trying to find you on Voxer so we can set up our buddy read. So I'm going to leave. You can either answer it in the comments, or I'll put my email down in the box. There's a bunch of Deborah Johnsons, and I can't find you. Let me know. All right. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas. See you soon. Y'all are talking all through my vlog.
Mute it. Those are scary. The sharks are freaking scary. They've got prehistoric eyes. Look at those prehistoric eyes. What kind of shark is that? Sand tiger. Wait, no. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Well, that's a sand tiger. Are they all sand tigers? Yeah, I guess so.
I think that's the big guy.
The nurse shark has the big fat head.
That's not, that's a sand tiger. Where's the fat head? They do, they're curious.
It goes down.